Welcome to Integrate This podcast. Today we are going to start our two-part series on exploring and creating GPTs or chatbots might be a more familiar term. And Jeremy and I are actually going to look at two different tools each and kind of explore some of the things that we found really interesting about them or how we think they would be helpful for educators. And so to give you a little breakdown of part one, Jeremy is going to start us off by looking at the Gems feature of Google Gemini. And then we'll transition to I'll be looking at a GPT that can be found in ChatGPT that actually acts as almost like a Canva extension, and that creates things in that GPT that you can then push into Canva and start editing. So we'll both explore our respective GPTs, and it'll be a lot of fun to try them out. And hopefully, you can take away something interesting for yourself as you explore.
Great. So I think it's going to kind of be a little bit mix of the creative plus the applicable stuff, right? And so we want to give you lots of great ideas that you can put your own spin on, and you can take and run with it, like David said, and get something great out of it that you can turn around and use. So I'm going to kick us off here with Gemini Gems. Gemini Gems have been around for a little bit, but they've been really only available if you had the level of Google with the Gemini add-on, and you were paying for that to be able to get to do some of the features like creating gems. But recently, Google has adjusted some of the tools that they make available under different plans. And currently, if you are a Google Education Plus subscriber, or your school is, you have the power to create gems. So what is a gem, first off? So a gem is like your own personal chatbot that you can use to give tasks to that you want done, right? And when I am talking with teachers, especially, about why they might want to start using AI tools in the first place, one of the things that always comes up is that it needs to be a time saving mechanism that teachers can use, right? And so think about it. If you could create your own chatbot that does a specific thing for you, that whenever you need that task done, you open that chatbot and you start telling it what to do, it's going to help save you some time in that regard. So I think it's really neat. Plus, it allows you to be creative with some of the things that you want to do. So, I should mention this here too, because these are kind of in within Google is kind of viewed to be personal. They're not necessarily really shareable to other people very well. I can say, well, yeah, I'm sharing this idea of this chatbot that I created, and you can go make a copy of it on your own. But I can't just necessarily maybe take this and then hand it off to students and say, ready, set, go. But there's still a lot of different administrative tasks and things that you do as a teacher that you might want some help with, right? And so I'm going to give you one example of those here. So right now, I just went to the Gemini homepage, right? And I'm just right here. And if I look over at the different panel, the different items in the panel on the left, you can see your recent interactions. But then you get to this part down here where it says gems, and you can see some of the ones that I've worked on already, and some of the other ones that Google has added to it as well, like a chess champ. And there's some other ones there if you're interested in exploring. But I'm going to click on where it says Gem Manager and open up this tool here that's part of Gemini. And you can see here again are some of the ones that Google has created already, that if you need help brainstorming, just open the brainstormer tool that's already there. I've played around with a couple of them, making an historical adventure guide. If you go way back to season one, you can see me creating this one using ChatGPT. I tried to recreate it here and it works pretty well. But like I said, it's not very shareable to use directly with students. So I'm going to make a new one here because I have this idea of something that I know when I was in the classroom, adding comments to report cards was, always something I dreaded doing at the end of every grading period. And so I want to make a new gem here that is going to help me take comments that I want to make about a particular student, but turn them into a glow and grow kind of format here so that I'm not just giving necessarily all the first things that pop into my head about a particular student, especially if they happen to be negative. But it's also going to share out to parents ways that they can still try to improve. So let's just call this glow and grow report card comments. Now, just so that you don't have to watch me type everything here, I've gone through and I've created a prompt that I'm going to use to help me set up this chatbot. So copying that from a different screen that you're not seeing, and I'm placing it here in the instructions. Now, if you look at this, yeah, I didn't come up with all of this myself, right? This actually is something that I had Gemini help me write, and then I am stealing the instructions that it gave me. So this makes a pretty good prompt, right? And so that is what is in there. If you wanted to see some of it, I'm telling it you're a helpful assistant designed to generate and report card comments for fourth grade students. Again, this is all editable, so you can change it to fit your needs. In a glow and grow format, I'm going to give you an example of a document that has the format, what I want it to look like, which I'll show you here in a moment. But then, it goes through and gives some of the instructions in the format that I want it to take. So I'm going to leave that in the instructions section. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to add to the knowledge base. So this is going to be kind of the data set that it's going to refer to when it generates its response in the format that you want. So I'm going to add a file here. So to this knowledge base here, I'm going to attach a file that I've already made. It has basically some samples of what I want these report card comments to look like. And I'll show that to you here kind of quickly so you have an idea of what that is. So one of the things here that I added to this particular document here is notice that it just has a student's first name and a last initial. I'm not giving away any data sensitive information into Gemini, so I should be pretty well covered there. I gave them 15 different examples of what that could look like. So then I'm going to take that in my knowledge base and add that here, and I'm going to click Save. I could preview it here if I wanted to, but I'm just going to assume that it's going to work because, I'm doing a live demonstration. Why would things not just work the way that you want them to? Okay, great. So here is my personal chatbot to help create glow and grow report card comments. I could type in the comments that I have, or I could hit this record button and use the microphone to enter in some ideas for comments that I have. So I have David B., who's a fourth grader in my class. And let me be honest, this last week, David was a bit annoying. He spent a lot of time disrupting and distracting other students, trying to get them off task. Basically, it looked like he was trying to get the attention of his fellow students. However, I do have to say this too. David did have a really great week in math. He got all of his assignments done with a perfect score on the quiz that we took on Friday. So I guess it's not all bad about David. So let's stop the microphone there. And we're going to turn this into a glow and grow report card comment by hitting this submit button and see what it comes up with. It says, okay, based on the glow and grow format from the provided document and your observations about David B., here are 2 report card comments that I could add. One's a glow. He demonstrated excellent mastery of math concepts this week, earning a perfect score on the quiz. but yet gives him an area in which he can grow, that he's been disruptive, but it puts a positive spin on it. He just needs to refocus his energy to try to avoid distracting his fellow classmates. Notice it took some of my very negative things and turned them into something that's much more constructive. So again, this would be a quick little tool that I could go through, and I could even give those verbal comments to about different students, and it would turn it into something I think I could really use when adding those comments to my report cards. So, yeah, that is just one example of a way that I think that you could really use gems as an opportunity to remember, help save yourself time.
Yeah, that's very cool, and I think that the setup is not challenging at all. So, if this is something that educators want to do, you could easily start a new gem and, basically give it the instructions of what you want it to do and start it. So the entry point for that is very low, I think.
Right. I think exactly. And you also have the ability to tweak the instructions, right? If you're not getting what you want this first couple of times doing it, come back and rework that, or ask Gemini to give you some feedback on your prompt and why isn't it doing what you want. And it will help you create, I think, those more clear instructions. And I also really like the knowledge base part of it too, is just really simple to add things into as well. And makes it an effective tool that I think teachers will save a lot of time with. All right. So for the next thing that we're going to share here today, David is going to take us through how he found a GPT that is going to allow you to create some prompting there that's going to help you get better results out of your work in Canva. So, David.
All right. Yeah. So the one of the things that you'll notice about your menu with the when you're in Chat GPT is you have the Explore GPTs option, which you can see here, and there's a whole bunch of options for various areas. Education just being one of them, but there's a lot to explore here. We're just going to look at Canva. And I know we have a lot of Canva users out there. And so one of the things that you can do with this GPT is you can actually start with a prompt in here using the Canva GPT. And what that will allow you to do is it kind of forces it to create presentations or anything that you might need based on the content that you're trying to create. So you prompt it, and then it can produce those, and then they're still going to be editable. So I'm going to show two examples, and one of them that we're going to look at to start is actually more for the lower grades. And what I really like about this is that I've had a number of like we work with some of our special education teachers on processes for things, or even I mean, really, you could use these in your general education classrooms too. But like for this first example, having a something produced that would be a process for washing your hands, right? Something that we have in a first grade classroom, students are gonna have to have some sort of chart or something up there with the steps on how to do that. And you could use this for any number of things, and this is just one example. And so all I've put into here, I copied and pasted from my other document, is I have a first grade classroom. My students need help with the process of washing their hands. Create a poster that highlights: one, turn water on; two, wet hands; three, use soap; four, scrub and count to 20; five, rinse hands; and then six, dry hands, right? So mainly what we want to look for here, what I'm kind of always checking, especially when it comes to like the image creation stuff, is did it actually cover all those steps? And does the words and imagery match? And does it actually accurately depict that process? A lot of what kind of, I think, the downfall of some of the image creation things that I've uh, tested is you do get some inconsistencies with the wording and things like that. And so one of the things I really like about this Canva pairing is that you're able to prompt and then have Canva create it, so that, and it does tend to be very accurate. Yeah. All right. So once I've hit send on the prompt, it starts to, it's got a couple things in here like, start your creative journey with Canva. Thanks for sharing your idea. And then it reiterates the prompt, right? Hand washing steps poster for first grade students. So what it does is it talks to the ChatGPT plugin for Canva, and then it starts to produce the posters for doing that. So here we have, option one, it's still kind of going through the production process. And in this case, what we're seeing is, kind of doing it live here, is that it doesn't really seem to produce exactly what we're looking for. So what I'll do is just going to show one of our previous versions here. And so I did this same one prior, and this is the prompt that I use. So actually, I think this is a good demonstration in like getting what you want versus what you don't. When I put in that prompt that we had, it didn't work out very well. When I tested this previously, this is what my prompt looked like. Fairly similar, but I did kind of distinguish the different steps by hitting enter and listing those out. And these templates are actually more along the lines of what I might be looking for. So this is what I got with the first one. So simple and clear instructions poster, proper hand washing step-by-step guide. So here we can see steps 1 through 5. It does not have a step 6 in there. It looked like maybe we've got step 1, wet your hands with, we'll have to click on this so we can actually see it. Step 1.
And so it opened it in Canva when you clicked on it, right? It
Yep,
didn't keep
and
it
it and
in.
it'll do
Yeah.
yep, and it'll do this with, like, each one that we do. So when we come to the presentation one, that one is gonna be a little bit more extensive. It looks like it's got, step 1, wet your hands with clean water, lather your hands with soap, rub and scrub your hands for 20 seconds, rinse well, dry hands. So it did kinda take the the reins itself and do more of a 5-step process, which is might be fine, right? The first one is just turn the water on. So you can kind of determine, is that going to fit your needs or not? The second one, you have, I think this one compared to the blue fun infographic style, this one is more along the lines of probably what you're going to be looking for, like for a first grade group or for a first grade classroom where you're putting it up on the wall, maybe above the sink or something like that. But you got wet your hands, apply soap, rub hands together. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. Clean fingers between, scrub fingernails and fingertips. So this one could be maybe a better representation of what you're looking for. But regardless of what you get, right? The nice thing with this is it will often give you more than one example, or one, it'll produce more than one product that you could potentially use. And it doesn't even matter which one you choose, because when you get inside of it within Canva, right, you still have the ability to edit things before you finalize it. So it basically brings you over to the what it produced, and you're already in the editing phase of this content, and it's also going to be in your library. So, if you were to go to your home, you're going to see that there's a copy of this that has been placed in your recent designs. So those are going to be more like your, actual your, where you can go back to and edit those things. So this is really cool in my opinion for creating some of those process materials that maybe some of the other GPTs or image creators weren't great at. You can also, from that, if you go, we're going to take a look at not so much a process, but more of a lesson presentation. We're going to grab another one here. We'll go to our Canva. We'll start a new um, prompt. And so we're back in that same area where we started. And then I'm going to just paste in here, make me a presentation for 9 through 12 life science content area. So life science from molecules to organisms, structures, and processes. I grabbed this language directly from the Minnesota State Science Standards, the newest version of it. And so then this is kind of what we're looking for. Use a model to illustrate the role of cellular division, mitosis, and differentiation in producing and maintaining complex organisms. So I want to show what the two examples is that we've got, an elementary example about processes for routines in the classroom. And then we can even go as complex as make me a presentation for a 9th through 12th grade life science class, feed it the standard, the benchmark, right? And then have it produce that. So we'll see what this will give us. We're at the mercy of whatever it produces live, but I do have another example that we can look at too. Okay, so again, a prompt kind of reiterating what you were asking it for, putting in some of the language that we had put into the prompt, and then it gets started on creating the design. So let's see what we get from this. Okay, so first we have visual and creative infographic, perfect for illustrating mitosis stages. So maybe we'll go into that one. Next, we've got clear layout for explaining cell division step by step. And this one looks like a graphic organizer, which could be fine, could be usable. But if we're looking at the prompt, what I'm looking for is a presentation. So that's probably what we'll focus on for this. And then it looks like it says this one is one that includes an interactive element like a worksheet. Then we've got one here. It says great for tying mitosis in broader biological organization. Yeah, it looks like it gave us, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looked like it stopped short here, which is fine. So let's take a look at number 1. So our mitosis, and again, right, it's going to bring us over to Canva into our editing phase. And then this is where you've got basically this like fully fleshed out presentation. So what is mitosis? Differentiates between unicellular and multicellular organisms. Then it gives us the stages of mitosis. So we can kind of go through all these. And then it breaks down the whole process. And that's where it ends. So, and then this is kind of right. This is where then, as the teacher, regardless of the content area or whatever, unit you're covering, you can kind of go back to your original prompt, which I would really encourage you to do every time, and look at, does this match what you've been talking about in class? And does the content that is built into this created mitosis presentation match the standard, right? And then you can start the process of, are there things in here that you want to take out? Are there things in here that you want to add? All of those will come into play, and you can then finish your presentation and then present it to the class. But again, this is doing a really nice job of utilizing the great graphics and different tools like text creation and things like that in Canva, and using ChatGPT to start that whole process and create something, and then make a finished product through that, without using some of the image GPTs that are lacking, as I mentioned. So some pretty cool stuff there. That's not even diving that much into it. It's basically 2 examples. So I would just encourage anybody who is interested in trying this to get the plugin from the Explore GPT. If you type in Canva, it will pop up and you'll get a list. One thing that you should be aware of too, when you're typing this in, you are going to actually get a number of different Canva options. What you want to, for this one, so there's no confusion, you want to grab just the normal Canva GPT. That's what's going to allow you to create the, not just presentations, right? A variety of whatever you could create in Canva, you'll be able to do through this. The only other thing that I would point out to you that I think is worth checking out This one is made by Canva. You have an author here, Kadeen Akbar, that there is a slides and presentation maker too that I did spend a little bit of time with. It was actually by accident because I thought this is what I was looking for, but it turned out Canva is where you want to actually be. But this one more so emphasizes creating Google Slides and PowerPoint presentations. So I think that one's worth checking out too, if you're wanting to translate it into one of those uh, basically one of those tools as opposed to a Canva creation. So you have some options there, and I would actually check out both.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm really impressed by the fluency that you're able to move from, being in Chat GPT over to Canva, and it just opened it up into, a very workable format, right? Like, the first one that you showed with the hand washing, and I was thinking, okay, yeah, combine two steps, but if you wanted to separate them back out, because all of those different fields you can edit, you could easily add in a step six, and make all of the ones that you had the way that you wanted it,
Yeah.
and even in the next one that you showed, the in more of the infographic one. Yeah, I mean, if you didn't like an image that it gave you, you could go back into the elements and or find your own, right? Or go into the magic media tools within Canva and create a different one than what was there. So, I think like the power to be able to do those things is just really, really cool.
Yep. Yeah, and as you were talking, I was just kind of, throwing some different things in here like this,
Yeah,
where you can kind of see it's very editable, and the same would follow for the more animated one too. So I, add a sixth step, change the photo. I think that's really great, like you mentioned, where you can, just like with everything else with our prompts and stuff, where you never have to be satisfied, right?
right. It's that idea, you just have to keep iterating until you get it the way that you want it, right?
Yep.
So that amazing. I think that was a great thing to show, and I think a very practical thing that would be another time-saving tool that teachers could latch onto for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us here. And I know I definitely had some great takeaways from what David shared here about using Chat GPT and Canva together, which is kind of a combination I haven't really considered before. So I'm excited to give that a try for some of the things that I do. And then also, you've got to be trying out Gemini Gems, especially if you are part of a district that has the Education Plus accounts. They're, from my opinion, very easy to use. That, as David called it, that entry level is very basic, but the results that you can get from it can be pretty powerful. So we hope you had some great takeaways from these things, and we look forward to seeing you in part two, where David and I are going to take on a couple of different ways to integrate chatbots and creating them and using them. And we are excited to share that with you in our next episode. So we'll see you then.